Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video lesson, we're going to create a little art project using yellow paints. And this is basically a put into practice lesson based on everything I've taught in the previous lessons with the color yellow. So just a quick recap. We did, we did swatches with the yellow paint that we had. We did mixing yellows even though they're a primary color, and then we did yellow and violet complements. In this particular lesson, I'm going to change things up a little bit so we can have some fun. I'm going to be using a stencil, and this is a Decor Americana Decor Stencil, Sunflower, and I'm going to be using paints for this, the Decor Traditions, this Handsy Yellow Medium, Handsy Yellow Light, Yellow Oxide, Carbon Black, and Opaque Titanium White. And I also have some gesso, and you may or may not need it. So there's the Decor Chalky Gesso or the Decor Media Gesso. The gesso basically creates a tooth. I'm using, this is a smooth watercolor paper. I don't need to use gesso on this because the paper will already take the acrylics. But gesso is great if you have a slick surface or if you're covering something else up because it's a lot more economical than paint. But what you can also do with it is you can create some texture with it as well. So if you take your brush and you slap it on, it'll create some really, really nice texture. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to be using the gesso because I want to work the background wet on wet. And I'm going to explain everything first because drying time is an issue because it has to be wet on wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover everything with gesso, but I'm going to have pre-mixed on the side some yellow with a touch of black to make a green. We're going to be covering that in the actual green color mixing section as well, but we did do a segment here where we mixed yellow with black. But I didn't do the Handsy Yellow Medium, so I think I'm going to try that one instead, and then I can use the Handsy Yellow Light as a highlight. So for the background, let's mix our paints first. I'm going to use a small brush. Where's my brush? I'm going to use a small brush just to pre-mix the paint, but I'm going to be actually applying it with my big fat filbert because I really like that. So I'm going to do is the Handsy Yellow Medium, and let me bring that closer. I'm going to pre-mix this first, then ooh, too much, Gisele. Jeez. I know better, too. I know better. I'm kind of liking that. Let me do two things. Let me go here. I'm going to create a gradation. A light green to a dark green. I wouldn't have had enough paint anyways. Let me just bring a little bit more in. Just creating that nice green. So we're shifting the yellow to green, but because the yellow leans towards orange, it's a lot duller. That's actually quite nice. Okay, so I'm not going to overmix that. I don't need that anymore. So now I'm going to take our gesso. I'm going to use the, oh, shake the camera. Oh. Decor, can you make these into smaller containers? Oh, I've got to pour these into smaller thingies. Okay, get my little cup. So all I'm going to do, and don't do this over your painting like I am. Me doing this is just dumb. I live on the edge. Live on the edge. All right. Chaos hasn't been feeling well, so she's on my bed right now. I've been feeding her some tuna on a little plate in bed. So hopefully she'll be joining us in a few days. All right, I'm going to take my big filbert brush, and I better get some paper towel. And I'm just going to dampen, and I'm just working in an art journal. You can work on whatever you want. I'm just going to dampen the paper a little bit. Dip into the gesso. And this is going to create some tooth as well as provide a backdrop for the gradation for the sky. Now what you want is you want enough on there to saturate the paper, but you don't want to see heavy ridges of paint. A little bit more. So what you don't want is that. Now, unless you actually want that texture, so you're going to do that, let it dry, and then apply a wet layer. Now, right away, I'm going to go to the light. Oh, that's too light. Let me go into the dark. And if you don't want stuff on the bottom, your bottom page is getting covered, just put wax paper on there. I don't care. This is just a journal to muck around in. I'm going to go into the dark. Come right over here. I had water on my journal page. I'm just going to work that down. I could have also put masking tape there. Okay, so I've got a bit of a dark, then light, then dark. I'm going to rinse my brush very, very quickly. So we worked on color mixing yellow with a bit of black. Now I'm going to take a little bit of white, not a lot, go right in the middle, and work my way up. Work my way down. Like that. And you can do that as many times as you want. Just when you start feeling a bit of a drag on the paper, you need to stop. Okay. And I'm just going to see if I could just fill that in. I'll take a bit more white. Just want this area a little bit brighter. It's not brighter, it's just a lighter value. Without fingerprints would be nice. There we go. All right, so now we're going to let that dry. And when we come back, we're going to do the stenciling. And the stenciling, we're going to work with a yellow oxide for the base, hence a yellow light for the highlights. And then we're going to use yellow oxide and black for the center. So it's nice and dry now. Now, one way to test to see if it's really dry, depending on how many layers you're going to be putting on, you touch it. If it's cold, then the layer isn't dry yet. Mine is slightly cool, and it's the extra water that I added in here to help with the flow, but it's going to be okay for what we're doing. So I've got my nice bright area here. I'm going to put my stencil right there. Now this is basically just a study, and it could be just a prep for something you want to do more formal. I highly encourage doing studies in a journal. That way you can muck around, and if you're planning on a bigger piece or a formal piece or a canvas piece, it helps to do your experiments in the journal, make notes, muck around, make mistakes. Making mistakes is the only way you learn. You make mistakes, take everything you've learned, then apply that to a formal design. Okay, so I'm going to take this stencil and I'm going to tape it down. Oh, DecoArt now has these beautiful adhesive stencils. Let me just show you. I'm going to be working, look at that one. I'm going to be doing, it's a reusable adhesive stencil. I'm looking forward to trying that. And that design, I'm going to see if I can do something when we do the neutrals, the earth tones. I'll use that. You want it as flat as possible. Now there's a bit of a curve here, and the paint would actually seep underneath. I'm going to put some tape there as well. And you want to use a low tack tape, and you do not want to leave this taped for very long, because the longer the stuff sticks, the more permanent the adhesive gets. Oakley dokley. We're going to be working yellow oxide on these. This is actually really pretty with that yellow. I'm going to work yellow oxide on that. Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of yellow oxide. Tap, tap, tap. Paper towel. You're just going to rub the excess. And I want to do the yellow oxide all over. And the yellow oxide is providing for a base. And I just did the tip, and I'm rubbing it ever so gently. could just do it with 2 fingers. There's not a lot of pressure. You don't want to put too much paint on here. And what this is going to do, once this is dry and I work with a bit of the brighter yellow right in the middle, it's going to create this beautiful ombre look, this gradation. And that's where you're going to be able to see where you can use this type of technique for shifting yellows as well. The yellow oxide is more more opaque. But used very thinly, it can be used more transparent as well. Of course, if you add a matte medium to it or a bit of water. See, the yellow from underneath and the white is showing through, which is adding that nice. If you compare, see, it's not as intense as that. No, intense is the wrong word. It's still bright, because the yellow showing through. It's not as opaque. It's not as dense. Not dense, dense. And I don't care if I cover the other stuff because that's just going to be covered with a darker color. All right, so typically you would just let this dry, then do another layer. If you use too much paint, your stencil is actually going to stick. That's why we did everything dry. So I can go and work on this right now. I can take, I wish I had a smaller brush. I thought I had a smaller one, or do I? On the floor. I'm going to use this little brush. This is a little mop brush. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow. That might be too small. And I'm just going to go in the middle. This is where the leaves kind of bend. Now, this yellow is very transparent, and that's why I'm not wiping it on the paper towel. It's just going to create a little bit of a hit. So I'm going to try. I don't like this brush. Sorry, I don't like that brush. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll just use my. I'll use my little Bristle Bright. Let me take some yellow, a little bit of white. The white's going to make it more opaque. There we go. You want to make sure that you're not making the highlight lighter than that. Just adding a little bit of extra color, not too much. You also don't want a ring, so that's why I'm kind of moving it around. You can also paint these freehand if you don't have a stencil. Freehand is quite nice as well. I'm going to take my round, yes, I'm going to take my round brush now. And I'm going to create another dark mixture. So I'm going to take yellow oxide, a little bit of black, a bit more black than that. I can even use the dirty paint. I'll wipe the excess on a paper towel. Test that color. Yeah, that color's good. Go back to that little round, actually I can use probably one of these. And I don't want to go too far. Oh yes, go a little bit up into the leaves, not too much. Just get a slight. Oh yeah. This is going to put the leaves right inside. I'm going to brush that over the yellow oxide. Yeah. Nice. shedding brushes. Oh, God, I hate that. Yellow and black. I feel that I would love to have a bit more of a sparkle on that, but when you take the stencil up to look at it, you're not going to be able to tell what it is. So we could always freestyle something if we wanted to. You could reuse that tape for something else if you want. You just tape it down on, let's say, saran wrap or a piece of acetate. And then lift up. Oh, look at the difference. See, with that you can't really tell, but look at that. Uh-oh. I foobarred there. What did I learn from that? That I had too much paint on my brush. I had too much paint on my brush. Can I fix that? It's going to stick out regardless of what I do. It's going to stick out. Yeah. Now, I love the stencil. I love the idea. I don't like the middle because some flowers are very dark in the middle. So they're dark in the middle because that's where all the sunflowers are. The seeds. It's not light like this. So why don't we alter this? Because that'll cover up my faux pas as well. So I take some more yellow oxide. Go right on the side here. A little bit of carbon black. Let's paint that. Let's paint that. I've got water in my brush. Oh my God. And you can use a pouncy stroke. I'm just getting the base coat started here. And then we'll use a pouncy stroke to create a little bit of texture. From here, you can also add a texture medium if you wanted to. If you have sand, clean sand, you can add sand to matte medium. That looks more like a sunflower. And then I'm going to take my little bristle brush, this one here, a bit more black, a bit more yellow oxide, very carefully pounce that, and I can go just over the edge just a little bit, just to add a little bit of fuzziness. Stencils are a great way to get you started. I know a lot of you are a little anxious about painting freestyle, and I would rather you do whatever you have to do to get started, just to give you a jump off point, just to get you going. I'm going to take some yellow oxide around there, just to get a little bit of that highlight. It's very dark in the middle. There we go. So now you know what I want to do. Oh, I should stop. Oh, aren't you lucky I don't have it? But wait, I could do something else. I wanted to splatter some white paint there. I was looking for a toothbrush. You can splatter it like this, but that's gonna get it. Well, does it matter if it gets everywhere? Maybe not. Or you can use another brush, just tap like that. Let's see what happens. I want to take some gesso and some water. This takes practice. I should be able to see it here. Oh, I just got over my paint. That's too fine. That's too fine. Yeah, that's a little fine. There we go. This would be really neat with a sparkle, like if I'm looking at my thing, like a diamond, a glamour dust. That would have been nice, but that's getting so off track. There we go. That's it. Then you let it dry and do whatever you want. With this, I would just leave it the way it is. And then this now can give you a starting point for a formal piece. So what you can do with this now is take, okay, what did I learn? Well, I know that I can make yellow, make a green with yellow and carbon black. I created a base using yellow oxide because it was transparent. I added a highlight in the middle using white with Hansa Yellow Light. And I altered a stencil, obviously, and used a pouncing brush to get the fuzziness on the edges, but I also used a brush and then just dry brush to get all this nice shadow right in here. What would I change? On a canvas by itself, if you think of that by itself, let me just get papers. On a canvas by itself, like this, it's not bad. I would like to see the background being a little bit, maybe more on the blue side. So with that, the yellow and the carbon black, not bad. I think next time though, I would probably go with a bit more on the green side. And we're going to be covering that in I think 2 more lessons anyways. But there you go. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you make your own version of a sunflower on a background, and I only want you to use yellow paint, black, and white. That's it. If you don't have gesso, use just plain white paint. If you don't have white paint, use gesso. If you don't have anything white, then you really shouldn't be doing art because you need white paint for something. So you're going to create a yellow greenish background and create your sunflower. If you don't have a stencil, you can even go to the internet and find a silhouette, cut it out, make your own stencil, or go to Decor's website to find this one, probably even Michael's, or paint it freestyle. You know, it's not about the actual subject of being painted, it's applying the techniques that you've learned to this. So what you need to do next, complete the homework assignment. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click one of the 2 links below to go over to the community. Once you're in the community, now this is for everybody, you're going to post pictures of your homework assignment in the community. You're also going to list the paints that you used, brand, name, and then the actual pigment number if you have it. Okay? Also put a comment in there, some aha moments that you had. What I don't like is when people just post pictures and leave it, no text or anything like that, because what do you want us to do? Like, are you wanting us to comment on the painting, or like, what do you want us to do? So put some context to the piece. Anything specific you want feedback on as well, or anything you've noticed during the painting, or if you like the way it is, just put a comment of what you like about the painting that you did. Alrighty, so I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to clean up and prepare for the next lesson. Until then, stay inspired.